Baltimore's Pimlico Racecourse, site of the Preakness, middle jewel of horse racing's Triple Crown. On this muggy Saturday, there's a very high level of anticipation. Anticipation prompted by Monarchos' stirring win in the Kentucky Derby. The steel gray colt had a perfect trip under Jorge Chavez and closed like a rocket to run the second fastest Derby ever after Secretariat. Hello, I'm Bob Costas. As we consider Monarchos' Triple Crown chances, let's keep in mind that it hasn't happened in 23 years, not since affirmed in 78. In recent years, Silver Charm, Real Quiet, and Charismatic each won the Derby and the Preakness, only to fall short in the Belmont. It ain't easy. And besides, even Monarchos' own trainer John Ward worries that Pimlico, with its tight turns, will prove ill-suited to his horse's come-from-behind style. Even with all that, the obvious fact remains that in today's field of 11, only one horse still has a shot at the Triple Crown. The horse that will leave from the 7 hole a little more than an hour from now.
I'm third-generation horseman. I've seen the horse business since I was 5 years old. I don't know how it is with other trainers, but for a Kentuckian to win the Kentucky Derby, you become a part of Kentucky history and folklore. And it won't wash off. I would imagine on your deathbed, that's probably what you think about.
If a Triple Crown is to be won for the first time in 23 years, this could be the crucial stop in the 3-race series. 2 weeks ago, Monarchos gave trainer John Ward the crowning moment of his career. But today, the Visa Triple Crown moves to Old Hilltop, a venue steeped in tradition dating to 1870, the second oldest track in America behind only Saratoga. And if crab cakes are on the menu, it must be Pimlico in Baltimore. The state has a great thoroughbred history. The Maryland Jockey Club founded in 1743. And somewhere around 100,000 fans have turned out to witness history in the making and to party at the Preakness. John Ward has continued his low-key approach to training Monarchos, who today faces 4 Derby rivals, 6 Triple Crown newcomers, and the legendary tight turns of Pimlico. The $1 million Preakness is over 1 mile and 3/16. That's a 16th shorter than the Derby. All 3-year-olds carry 126 pounds. A hot, humid afternoon, but the track is fast for the 126 Preakness. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Pimlico. I'm Tom Hammond, and today we find out if Monarchos can make a serious run at the Triple Crown. Last year, Fusaichi Pegasus won the Derby, but when he came to Pimlico, Red Bullet, who had passed the Kentucky Derby, upset him. Fusaichi Pegasus was 30 cents on the dollar, tying him with Riva Ridge as the lowest price beaten favorite in Preakness history. Well, the betting on this year's Preakness opened yesterday. Let's check the current odds as they stand now. And Marciano, one of the local favorites, is at 40 to 1. Mr. John 18. Griffinite a long shot. A P Valentine getting some support at 8. Congaree third in the Derby, 7 to 2. Richly blended, expected to be the early speed, is 16 to 1. Monarchos, the Derby winner, is 5 to 2. Maybe he hasn't convinced some people. Percy Hope at 45. Bay Eagle is at 80. Dollar Bill 7 to 1. And Point Given is the 2 to 1 favorite. Joined now by Charles C. Canty. And Charles C., Monarchos, the Derby winner, what sort of different challenges does he face here at Pimlico?
Well, there are significant changes from the Kentucky Derby. You mentioned the tight turns, the shorter race. There's also going to be a much more sedate pace than we had in Kentucky, which is not really helpful to a come-from-behind horse like Monarchos. These conditions do suit Congaree and Point Given to a T, so if ever they're going to beat Monarchos, today's the day. But I'm banking on Monarchos proving that he's not just a one-dimensional come-from-behind horse. He won a pretty quickly run sprint race down in Florida this winter. He was very close to fast fractions. I think we'll see him be very aggressive in the early stages.
Well, when Monarchos won the Derby, he did so without benefit of a timed workout Derby week. That hadn't happened since 1976. It's the same approach that John Ward is taking here at the Preakness. Now, at the Preakness, most of the Preakness horses are saddled in one barn. Makes it convenient for everyone, and that is the Stakes barn at Pimlico. Monarchos is in the first stall there, and Mike Battaglia is close by. Mike?
Well, you're right, Tom. Monarchos is right behind me, and he absolutely looks great. John Ward brought him in here to Pimlico early, and that really seems to have paid off. He's been galloping very strongly over the track here at Pimlico, and in John's words, this horse is ready to jump out of his skin. He ran the race of his life in the Kentucky Derby, and all indications are he's ready for another big one today. Now, one horse that didn't run a big race in the Kentucky Derby is a horse that you and I both picked, Numi, and that's Point Given.
Do you have to remind me?
Yeah.
Isn't this a classic case, Mike, of what have you done for me lately? I mean, here we were 2 weeks ago, people talking up Point Given like he was going to win the Triple Crown, and oh, the mighty have fallen. This week, morning line, third choice for the Preakness Stakes. Last week, at the Derby, Gary Stevens pushed this horse into the teeth of what was a very fast pace. But look at him make a long, sustained run on the turn, picking off horses one by one until the gas gauge ran empty at the top of the stretch. Today, look for the change of tactics. Stevens from the 11 hole will try to tuck in and make one long, sustaining run a la Monarchos in the Derby. Now, the problem with this is very simple. The history of outside post positions in this race since 1983. Look at that. 57 starts, Mike. Just one win. That was real quiet. 44 of the 57 completely out of the money.
Well, speaking of change of tactics, though, I think we're going to see a change of tactics with the other Bafford horse also, Congaree. We've got two changes. Bailey on, a change in riders, a change of equipment, blinkers off. I think this means they're going to try to take this horse back and maybe come from a little bit off the pace today.
Same horses, but a different scenario for today's Preakness Stakes, Tom Hammond.
All right, Bob. Jerry Bailey will be on Congaree as the guys were talking about the big three here at the Preakness. Congaree, Point Given, and, of course, the Derby winner, Monarchos. And if you'd like to join in the fun, log on to msnbcsports.com. You can get comprehensive coverage of the race and a special interactive feature that lets you handicap the race. So you can join in our online cybercapping and also check out later a video replay of the race. All at msnbcsports.com. Jockeys might be feeling a few butterflies. The Preakness Stakes from Pimlico still to come. The Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company has dispatched its Ohio-based blimp, Spirit of Goodyear, to provide aerial views today. The Goodyear blimps have been appearing over sporting events since 1925 and providing aerial TV coverage since 1962. 2 weeks ago, Monarchos, ridden by that man, Jorge Chavez, won the Kentucky Derby by nearly 5 lengths and the second fastest winning time ever, validating the life's work for Chavez and John Ward, an unlikely pair, jockey and trainer.
We believe you raise a horse like a champion, you train a horse like a champion, and then you make them disappoint you.
Tradition means everything. Putting the horse first, knowing your horse, not having to use the watch to know how fit your horse is or where you are at that particular time with your horse.
I believe that trainers forget they're working with a living, breathing being. And if they tried to get themselves as fit as they got their horses, some of them wouldn't be able to get to work the next day. There was that momentary period there where you don't know, is he going to unleash today, or is this a day it's not going to happen? George reached back, tapped him once, and he took off like a shot. I knew it was over from there.
Jorge Chavez and Monarchos have won the Kentucky Derby. Jorge Chavez on top of the world. Jorge Chavez on top of the Kentucky Derby winner.
His journey was long and difficult. Born into poverty in Peru, he was abandoned by his family at the age of 10.
George Chavez came up with a very, very tough life as a child. He fought against all odds of growing up on the streets.
At age 20, he rode a horse for the first time. A self-taught jockey, he became his country's leading rider. When he began competing in America, his raw, aggressive style brought him numerous suspensions, and his use of the whip earned him the nickname Chop Chop.
When I first met him, he had the reputation that he used the stick really heavy, and I just said, Georgie, my horses are so, they'll faint. They won't run from the stick. They give you everything anyway.
Chop Chop is no longer there. I don't think, he's still an aggressive rider, but he's more professional. He's more of a thinking rider now.
As far as Monarchos goes, Monarchos loves him because he sits up there, he's quiet, and he loves the animal.
I think his talent has risen with his association with the horse.
George is a team player, and I think that's what's brought him into our fold. We believe, Don and I, that everybody has a job to do, everybody does their job, and everything will work out well. And George is an important part of that team.
Well, Charcy, I think Chavez has joined the nation's elite among jockeys. And John Ward, there were a lot of questions, a lot of people second-guessing him before the Derby. But, you know, he knew what was right for his horse.
Well, there's no guidebook for horse trainers. It's purely intuitive, and the good ones just treat each one as an individual and know what that horse needs. And that's what John Ward has done, and he hasn't swayed from his plan.
Interestingly, John said, next year maybe I'll come to the Preakness again with a different horse and train him completely differently, just matching the horse. Well, of course, if it's a Triple Crown race, it must be Bafford time. There's that cell phone. It's almost attached to him constantly. He'll be trying to make it 3 Preakness wins over the last 5 years today, the same situation he faced in the Derby. At Churchill Downs, Bafford was confident with 2 highly regarded horses, but at the end of the day, he felt the rare sting of disappointment.
Point Given was probably the biggest disappointment. You know, we're all sort of puzzled by his effort. It's a tough pill to swallow, but that's what makes the Derby so exciting, is that you never know what's going to happen. Not only, you know, the best horse doesn't win the race, it's the horse that has the best racing luck that's ready that day, and that's what happened.
Expectations were high for race favorite Point Given and veteran jockey Gary Stevens seeking his 4th Derby win.
Sometimes they just don't show up, and he obviously didn't show up today.
Gary probably took him out of his game and put him a little bit closer to pace, thinking he was in a good spot. I think he didn't want Congaree to get away from him, so maybe the strategy, you know, cost me the race. I don't know.
Point Given's performance is still a mystery to Stevens, Bafford, and everyone else. But one thing is for sure, Gary Stevens hasn't lost his confidence in the horse, and again will be aboard Point Given despite that 5th place finish in the Derby.
Congaree, I think he ran probably the best race of all the horses, and he proved Derby Day that he is as good as I always thought he was.
Here at Pimlico, Congaree attempts to improve on his third-place Derby performance, but with a new rider, two-time Preakness winner Jerry Bailey.
I've never ridden him in a race, but historically I've probably ridden horses the first time as good or better than I ever ride them. And my theory is that horses run the best the way they want to run.
If there's going to be an advantage for any horse, it would probably be Congaree.
And live from the jockey's room, Jerry Bailey getting a little scouting report on Congaree. Gives us the thumbs up.
Get my hairy side, will you?
All slicked up and ready to go in his McNair silks.
This side has more hair, right? All slicked up.
It was reported that Bailey passed up a mount on Congaree in the Wood Memorial to ride Hero's Tribute Award horse in the Bluegrass Stakes, but now on Congaree for the Preakness. Here are the odds. Marciano at 40, Mr. John 18, Griffinite 50-1, A P Valentine, the Zito horse 8-1. Congaree is at 7-2 under Jerry Bailey. Richly Blended 16-1, Monarchos 5-2, Percy Hope 45, Bay Eagle a big long shot at 80, Dollar Bill 7-1, and Point Given once again is the favorite. He's 2-1 for the Preakness. Back at Pimlico and live in the jockey's room, there's John Court getting set to ride in his first Triple Crown race. He'll be on Percy Hope for the second time. He won the Lone Star Derby with him last time, a Florida native who admired Bill Shoemaker growing up, the great one. There are the odds as we check them out. Congaree now at 3-1. Monarcho still at 5-2, and the favorite continues to be Point Given. He's at 2-1. You'll notice Dollar Bill there is a 7-1 shot. Well, at the Derby, Monarchos and Jorge Chavez had to survive a claim of foul lodged by John Velasquez, who was on Invisible Ink, the second-place finisher. But here at the Preakness, another Derby incident has taken center stage. It involves a horse that makes you think of money and a jockey in pink silks. It's less than a 2-hour chartered flight for the horses traveling from Kentucky to Maryland. But it must have been a long trip for Dollar Bill. His run for the Roses ended in 15th place. A finish that begs the question, why even come to the Preakness?
We went around the first turn pretty nice. It was just off of Monarcho's hip. He was starting to get his feet up under him and was getting over the ground well.
A good start was good news because the past had not always been so kind for horse and jockey.
He ran into a bit of a problem in the Louisiana Derby. He bumped with an outside horse, and when he did, I was forced to take up drastically. In the Bluegrass, he was setting on go, ready to break. The horse next to him kicked the doors. He was never really enthused, never really into the game after that.
Could trouble loom again at the Derby?
All of a sudden, out of the blue, somebody broadsided me from the inside, and I wasn't sure who that was or what it was.
I'm climbing the foal! I'm climbing the foal! This ain't no good. I got nobody specific, but I want them to look at it.
Stewards reviewed Day's claim, but since all the horses involved were far back, there was no reason to change the order of finish. But jockey and trainer Dallas Stewart still wondered what happened.
Just got sandwiched right off.
Looking at the replay there, it certainly appears that Keats stopped suddenly.
Right there, right there. See, right there.
It just took up whatever space would have been there for me. Keats just ran out of gas, you know what I mean? If you can imagine running down the interstate at 65 or 70 miles an hour and all of a sudden a car just stops in front of you, I mean, everybody's trying to avoid them.
The wrong spot at the wrong time.
So Dollar Bill's journey to Maryland is actually a chance at redemption for a horse who on Derby Day was the second favorite at post time.
I dare say that he won't be the second choice in this field here, but I don't pay any attention to the tote board, and he can't read it, so we'll just let that slide.
Well, Dollar Bill is still getting some support. Dallas Stewart in there putting the bridle on him. That's a live shot of the stall for Dollar Bill. All the trouble he's had is a wonder the van bringing him from the airport didn't have a wreck. hoping for a clean trip in the Preakness today. Well, one way to avoid trouble if you have the horse is to go to the front like Seattle Slew did in the Preakness in 1977. Since Sir Barton in 1919, there's always been at least one Triple Crown winner alive, despite 20-plus year gaps through some of the decades. It's been 1978 since Affirmed won the Triple Crown, and when he passed away in January, it left only Seattle Slew.
He was the best of the best.
Seattle Slew has moved up along the inside. At the finish, it's going to be Seattle Slew coming to the wire.
He's Muhammad Ali. He's Michael Jordan.
They're coming on the turn with Seattle Slew still the leader. Slew wins the Preakness by a length and a half.
He had pizzazz. He had star quality.
It's Seattle Slew, and he's drawing toward the field. Seattle Slew opens it to 4 lengths.
When he won the Triple Crown undefeated, he'd done something that no other horse had done. He's always just had such heart and such courage. All we had to do was look after him.
Bought as a yearling for just $17,500, Karen and Mickey Taylor have been looking after Seattle Slew since 1975. At 27 years old, Slew is now a senior citizen who's forever influenced his sport and all those around him.
Slew is become an institution in the thoroughbred breed. He has, in fact, passed on his qualities to more colts and fillies than Secretariat did.
Seattle Slew was not an expensive yearling purchase. I mean, he was really a bargain. And who would have ever guessed that Seattle Slew would not only win the Triple Crown, but just go on to be such a tremendous stallion. He's just been one of the great success stories in the history of thoroughbred racing.
But last year, Slew's story nearly ended.
On January 13th of 2000, the rider was walking out on Slew and something didn't feel right. He had a pinched nerve in his spine, and we did surgery to correct that situation. It was touch and go there for a few weeks as to whether we were going to save the horse.
He was so athletic and so proud of himself. He had a tough time walking.
I promised him that if he made it, we'd stick it out with him. And I told him to fight hard, and we'd all be a team.
If you saw him a year ago today, everyone gave up on him. But to see him fight, to do that, it just gives you pleasure to be with them.
Not all horses would have been brave enough to stand up to that kind of trauma and come through it successfully. Is really a great tribute to the horse himself.
He is the best of the best. And, you know, who knows? He might outlast me.
And there's a look at one of Slew's grandsons, A P Valentine, who's in the Preakness today. And thanks to that spinal fusion surgery, Slew still successfully breeding mares. 17.5, the investment. He's generated hundreds of millions of dollars in stud fees, sales of offspring, and earnings. Seattle Slew, the only living Triple Crown winner. Will there be another one after this year? That's Monarchos getting a pre-race bath. He's the second choice at 5-2 for the 126 Preakness. Jockey's weighing out in preparation for the Preakness. There's Chavez. They each have to carry 126 pounds. None of them weigh that much, Gary Stevens included, but they'll put slabs of lead and a pad underneath the saddle to bring them up to the 126 pounds. What a great weekend this is at NBC for sports. The Preakness today, followed by Game 1, the highly anticipated Western Conference Series between the San Antonio Spurs and the LA Lakers, and then the most magical words in American sports, Game 7. Coming up tomorrow, ×2, Toronto, Philadelphia, and Charlotte, Milwaukee. Great weekend of NBA coming up on NBC, including the Spurs and Lakers following the Preakness today. Well, the horses are beginning to gather. Saw the odds update, and the horses soon will be making their walkover from the stakes barn to join us to be saddled out on the turf course in front of the stands. Right now, let's go back to Bob Costas with a very special Maryland guest.
Well, that's right, Tom. We're very pleased to be joined by one of the most esteemed figures in the history of broadcasting, Jim McKay, who covered so many horse races and just about everything else. The Olympics, and the list is too long to go through here. A native Marylander, as Tom Hammond mentioned, and you have been here at this very spot so many times.
Yeah, I think 1977 was the first one for my network, ABC.
You're allowed to say that.
Yeah, as you know, I've been for 40 years. 1977, Seattle Slew. But my first Preakness, I hate to admit it, really, was 1948, Citation.
I missed that.
It was a local show, and it was on TV. I remember a great many of them, of course. Sunday Silence and Easy Goer, greatest horse race I ever saw anywhere. And then there was one involving an old Maryland trainer named Henry Clark, and this is a real tradition story because his grandfather had won the Preakness. He had never won it in his 50-year career as a trainer. He always had the same barns here until he died in his 90s, but finally he had a horse, he thought. Linkage was his name. They would have been the favorite in the Derby, but Henry passed the Derby to run in the Preakness. Most important thing in his life. And this was a wonderful horse, Linkage. He brought in Bill Shoemaker to ride him from California. Bill had flown overnight to get here. He did not know that the day before, many winners had been on the rail. It's an 18-year-old jockey named Cowboy Jack Cannell, who had ridden every race the day before, and he knew, and he was riding a local horse called Aloma's Ruler, and he beat Bill Shoemaker and broke Henry Clark's heart.
Who do you like today?
I like Monarchos again. You know, I really did pick him 2 weeks ago. I don't think I ever picked a winner on television, but I had him 2 weeks ago.
Way to go.
I like him again.
Look forward to seeing you at the Olympics in February.
Thanks, Bob. Great seeing you.
All right, Jim McKay, folks. Let's go back to Tom Hammond.
Thank you, Bob. As the horses begin to gather to make their walk over to be saddled for the Preakness, and the jockeys posing for their official group photo before the Preakness, just as they did before the Kentucky Derby 2 weeks ago. And Chavez getting a little tap on the back of the head from Jerry Bailey. He hopes that's the only time that happens today. There's a look at Monarchos, and Charlesy, we're used to seeing now that special piece of equipment that runs right down from his forehead to his mouth. What is that?
It's actually made of white rubber. It's called a sure win, and what it does, it lifts the bit in his mouth. Monarchos has a habit of trying to get his tongue over the bit. They tried various nose bands, etc., to stop him. That seems to work the best. They say he's got a very athletic tongue. He could get the best of no matter what they put on him, but this one obviously works. You may remember seeing it on Seattle Slew back in the 70s.
And, of course, the problem is if they get their tongue over the bit, the jockey loses a lot of control, right?
The power steering goes out because it becomes painful to the horse, and they'll fight against it.
So, making the walk over with John Ward and Monarchos is Mike Battaglia. Mike?
Thanks, Tom. And John, you said from the start that of the 3 Triple Crown races, the one that worried you the most was the Preakness.
Well, absolutely. It's a longer stretch but tighter turns. I'm a little scared of whether we'll get hung up on our sweep and move. But it's too late to worry. We're on our way over, and we're looking for the big one.
What about instructions to Chavez? Will you tell him maybe to try to move a little bit sooner because of these tight turns?
I talked to George earlier in the day on the cell phone, and we talked about what the weather was like, what the racetrack was like, and he said, "Boss, don't worry, I got it under control."
Now, when we were walking over for the Derby, the emotions were very high. You seem to be very, very loose. Are you a little bit more nervous with one of the favorites today?
No, not really. The Kentucky Derby is such a great win. This would be icing on the cake. So I'm just happy to be here. Everybody's relaxed, and Pimlico's been a wonderful place to run a horse.
Thank you, John Ward. Tom?
All right, now Donna Barton Brothers is with us also today, and she's walking with the trainer of Dollar Bill, Dallas Stewart. Donna?
Dallas, 3 consecutive nightmarish trips behind you. People say you make your own luck. Is it possible for a horse to make its own bad luck?
Well, I don't think so, Donna. We're walking over there. It's a new day. The horse is doing great. He's focused. We'll be ready to go.
After the Derby, you're leaning towards maybe not running back in the Preakness. What changed your mind?
Well, maybe just a good night's sleep. I don't know. We got him back to the track. He felt good. He trained good. He had a good work. Pat's positive on the colt, so here we go.
Dallas, good luck and have a good trip.
Let's get him.
Tom?
That would be a rarity, wouldn't it? Dollar Bill 7-1 currently on the odds. Well, Point Given is famous for his antics. Bob Bafford says he's playful, not mean, but he's a handful in the morning. He's a huge horse, and sometimes he gets a little rambunctious with his morning antics. And there's a look at A P Valentine and Nick Zito, and here is Point Given
he knuckles. See, he trips on his toe a little bit, and when he goes down, he says, okay, here's an excuse to pay. Get him, cowboy. And this is what he does. Now, watch the exercise rider. He's got to keep his weight forward, keep his hands around his neck. The fear is if you hit him in the mouth at this point, they'll fall over backwards on top of you. It's an awful feeling because once they start that, you can't really stop them until they're good and ready. And he does this fairly frequently.
That was Friday morning, and Bob Bafford running over to make sure Point Given is okay. And right now with Bob Bafford is Bob Newmeyer. Bob?
Trainer of two of the big three in today's Preakness. Charleston showed that Point Given acting up yesterday. Most of the horses saddling on the turf today, Bob, you choose to inside because of the skittish nature of Point Given?
Yeah, basically for him, Congaree, he's a sweetheart. But the thing about Point Given, when he gets a little anxious in there, and I don't want him to be...
He's giving us a little serenade back there.
Exactly there. He's tipping him off. He says, go to the window. But he's the kind of horse that, you have to wear these dress shoes, and he'll break my toes, and he's got a better chance of doing it on the turf course.
We're not even cueing him for that sound. It's terrific. Good stuff. How do you explain the lousy race in the Derby?
Well, I think we have our theories, and we'll find out today the way they run. I think he'll run much better this time. I don't know what it was, but we thought we might have figured things out about the horse, whether he was too close or whatever, but we'll find out today.
So Point Given and Congaree to be saddled by Bob Bafford in today's Preakness Stakes. Tom?
All right, and once again, Point Given, the 11, that's the outside post. And one thing Bafford said this week, he says, this time, one thing we'll do differently, we're going to keep an eye on Monarchos. That's what we're doing right now. He's on his way to be saddled on the turf course in front of the grandstand. Be right back. A look at some of the Preakness horses and their handlers making their way up the track and heading to be saddled, most of them to be saddled on the turf course, except we think for number 11, that's Point Given, who will be saddled in the indoor saddling paddock. And Congaree, there's Bob Bafford, the trainer of Point Given and Congaree. Point Given, like he was in the Derby, is the favorite here at the Preakness, 2-1. And he reigns as the favorite once again. Well, Charles, see, a couple of weeks ago when we were enjoying a very glorious Kentucky Derby day, there was an insidious epidemic underway in Kentucky. It's affecting the foals. It's causing a lot of aborted foals and stillborn foals, and nearly 500 of them so far have been reported. It's really become a serious problem.
It's a terrible epidemic. It's caused by toxins in the grass. There's not really any definite cause right yet. Other than that, nobody really knows quite what to do. Any breeder who loses a foal has a terrible loss. But Arthur Hancock recently reported that Angel Fever, the dam of Fusaichi Pegasus, lost her foal by the country's leading sire, Stormcat. So you can see the financial and emotional ramifications of this. This is a terrible situation, and we're going to see the end of this for several years.
I was talking to Dr. Larry Bramlage, and he told me it looks like about 25% of the crop will be affected when it's all said and done, and the losses will be somewhere in excess of $225 million. But a happier time here at the racetrack today as we gear up for the 126 Preakness Stakes. And let's check the odds with Marciano, one of the local favorites, at 40-1. Mr. John, 19-1. A P Valentine, 9. Congaree holding at 3-1. Richly Blended, 17. Monarchos at 2-1 now. He was 5-2, so he's gone down a half a notch to 2-1. 7-1 on Dollar Bill, and Point Given also at 2-1, although more money has actually been bet on Point Given than on Monarchos. So on the board, co-favorites, but actually Point Given is a slight favorite in the amount of money bet. That's a look at the turf course as we look back toward the grandstand, and a unique aspect of the Preakness is that they saddle the horses for the race out on the turf course, so everyone can get a good look at them. That's Monarchos. You can recognize him by that band across his forehead, and you see the assistant trainer and the groom there with the owners. John Oxley, of course, the Tulsa oil man who also has a farm in Kentucky, and when he came back after winning the Kentucky Derby, they decorated his front gate with bags of nacho chips. Why that? Well, the nickname of Monarchos is Mucho Nachos. Some fan in Florida had given him that name earlier in the year. Bob Bafford inside with his two horses, Congaree and Point Given. We'll be saddling them both. And then Jerry Bailey will take over on Congaree and Gary Stevens on Point Given. There they are. The 5 horses Congaree. Jerry Bailey who already has won 2 races on the undercard at Pimlico today. And there is Jerry Bailey walking with the other jockeys toward the paddock. Jorge Chavez getting last-minute good luck from the other riders. Chavez hoping to take leg 2 of the Visa Triple Crown as he will go postward on Monarchos in the 126th running of the Preakness Stakes from Pimlico. They call it Old Hilltop. It's Pimlico Racecourse in Baltimore. Old Hilltop because in its early days there was a rise in the infield where trainers and owners liked to gather to watch the races, long ago taken down. Marciano at 40-1, Mr. John at 19, and A P Valentine is at 9-1. Congaree still 3-1. Richly Blended has been steadily rising, now 17-1. Monarchos at 2, 7-1 still on Dollar Bill, and Point Given is still 2-1. Well, Mike and Bob rarely agree on anything, but at the Derby they agreed on Point Given. Perhaps that was the problem. Guys, who do you like in the Preakness?
That could have been a problem, but you know what? In the Derby, that pace was ridiculously fast. And Bob, today I would expect to see a considerably slower pace early on.
I think everyone's in agreement on that. Let's break down the horses according to their running styles. And we're going to begin with the speed horses, the horses that we figure to be on the lead. And, of course, the most noteworthy is Richly Blended. This is a quality horse, folks. He's won 4 out of 5. He should be on the lead. He has a nice tactical advantage. I think he's got a shot to be 1, 2, 3. 2 problems, the distance, obviously. And he's one of these so-called new shooters, horses that did not run in the Derby, but are running in the Preakness. And look at those dramatic statistics for the new shooters. 68 starts, only 1 winner, and that was Red Bullet here last year.
Well, Richly Blended's a quality horse, but he can't get any mile in 3/16. Let's take a look at the stalkers in this race. And of the stalkers, you got to look at Congaree. Congaree ran a big race to finish 3rd in the Kentucky Derby. As we mentioned, the change of tactics, I think he's going to be taken a little bit back off of the pace. Of the stalkers, I think he's the only one that's dangerous.
And we have a new closer today, too, Mike, and we're putting Point Given in the closer column along with Monarchos.
Right. Well, Monarchos and Point Given are both solid closers. Monarchos, of course, ran that huge race in the Kentucky Derby. A lot of people said that was because they went the half in 44-4. I disagree. If you go back to the Florida Derby, they ran a half in 46-4. Here you see the Florida Derby. Monarchos is highlighted up there on the outside. You see Chavez going to work. This horse goes from 8th to 1st in less than 1/8 of a mile, and they were running the half in 46-4. Not terribly fast. Watch this move. Look at Monarchos up on the outside. That was just so terribly impressive to me, and from here on in, he just goes on and he wins the Florida Derby impressively.
Now, in a similar style is Point Given. We say that because the race that best represents the kind of run we think he'll make today is the Breeders' Cup Juvenile last year at Churchill Downs. That's him now in the middle of your screen in the green and white silks. Just misses to Macho Uno. But with that outside post, we figure he's going to take back and make 1 run. I'm sticking with him. I'm a loyalist. Mike loved him 2 weeks ago. Let me get this straight. You're off the bandwagon.
I loved him 2 weeks ago, but I really love Monarchos' race, and I've switched. I'm a Monarchos man now. I'm going for Monarchos, but I think Point Given's the one to beat.
Fickle guy you are. Charles, back to you.
All right, guys, so Point Given and Monarchos, those are the guys that they're talking about. And, of course, you can't tell the riders without a program these days. Here are the rider switches. Jerry Bailey was on the long shot Talk Is Money in the Derby, now picks up Congaree. Victor Espinosa, who rode Congaree in the Derby, was fired by Bafford. He picks up A P Valentine as Nick Zito decides to ride him. And Corey Nakatani, Zito got rid of him on A P Valentine. And Corey Nakatani will be rejoined with Mr. John, whom he rode last time. Pat Day is right there in the pink silks of Dollar Bill. And Pat is hoping for a clean trip. So is Corey Nakatani. He'll be back on Mr. John. You mentioned clean trip with Mr. John. He was disqualified in his last start for trouble leaving the starting gate in the Coolmore Lexington Stakes at Keeneland. And this race figures, Charles C., to be a rider's race in a lot of ways because of the nature of the Pimlico racetrack. And the way the pace is going to unfold, it could be, as we say, a riders, jockeys, tactics race.
Well, as our handicappers alluded, Richly Blended is really the only dedicated speed, and while I disagree with Bob Newmeyer, I don't think he's capable of carrying his speed the mile and 3/16. They still have to kind of keep him in some kind of range. I think we'll be looking at both Mr. John and Percy Hope being the closest to him, but judging that pace is going to be very much a factor with these jocks this afternoon.
In the Kentucky Derby, not only was Dollar Bill in trouble, but A P Valentine at 2 different points of the race was in trouble. He's trained by the veteran Nick Zito, and Mike is with him.
Nick, this horse has had 9 races, 5 different jockeys. Is he a tough horse to ride, and could that may be the reason he's not as consistent as you would like?
Well, I hope we found the right jock today, Mike. That could be a point you touched on, but that's racing. Sometimes you can't always get the jock you want, and sometimes there's different situations in racing, but I think we'll be okay. I love this kid's attitude. He just, I was giving him instructions. He said, I know, just win. So that's good enough for me.
You can't get any better instructions than that. I know, just win. Tom?
The irrepressible Nick Zito. And there's A P Valentine. Earlier, we saw the last living Triple Crown winner, Seattle Slew, but the oldest living winner of a Triple Crown race is Little Current, who won 2/3 of the series in 1974. Little Current, the subject of our Chrysler Preakness moment. The horse of the year in 1974 may be better known for not winning the Triple Crown. Little Current, who fought through intense traffic to finish 5th in the Derby, showed his true strength here at the Preakness, eclipsing the field by 7 lengths. He then went on to win the Belmont by the same convincing margin, and today at 30, he remains the oldest living winner of a Triple Crown race.
The Preakness Stakes is brought to you by Visa, proud sponsor of the Visa Triple Crown. By Budweiser, with a crisp, clean, refreshing taste you'll find in no other beer. And by Goodyear, serious technology, freedom from worry.
Go.
Riders up!
Steve McHarg, the paddock judge, with the order of riders up for the Preakness, now some 11 minutes away. Mark Johnston, the long-legged one, aboard Marciano, the one horse. There's a look at the Derby winner, Monarchos, awaiting Jorge Chavez. And John Ward will give him a leg up. Notice that the assistant trainer and the groom of Monarchos, both females, as John Ward said, Monarchos responds well to the Y chromosome. And now the call to the post from bugler Joe Kelly. For the flourish of Joe Kelly as the horses make their way from the saddling area on the turf course onto the dirt of the main track, a mile oval here at Pimlico, and they'll race a mile and 3/16 in the Preakness. And now the traditional singing of Maryland, My Maryland from the U.S. Naval Academy Glee Club. The horses for the 126 Preakness Stakes. Number 1, Marciano, local favorite. He won the Tessio Stakes here at Pimlico in his last start, and ridden by Mark Johnston, the 2000 leading Maryland jockey. He's a long shot in the betting, but looking for his second win in a row. Mr. John is the 2 horse, trained by Elliott Walden, who twice has been second in the Preakness with Victory Gallop and Menifee, ridden by Corey Nakatani, who was aboard A P Valentine in the Derby, disqualified in the Lexington in his last start for trouble coming out of the gate. Number 3, Griffinite. Jennifer Lee Peterson, the trainer, the 9th female to saddle a Preakness horse, and ridden by Sean Bridgemahan, the 21-year-old who was the top apprentice in the U.S. in '98. Jose Santos has a broken wrist, or he would have been riding. The 4-horse A P Valentine. Nick Zito trained Louis Quatorze to win the Preakness in 1996. In trouble twice, finishing 7th in the Derby, has Victor Espinoza aboard here at the Preakness. The 5-horse is Congaree. Bob Bafford has won the race twice with Real Quiet and Silver Charm, and Jerry Bailey aboard. 6 is Richly Blended. There he is, expected to be the early pace setter. Won the Wither Stakes Derby Day at Aqueduct. Rick Wilson has ridden him every time at 47, the oldest jockey in the race. Richly Blended has won 4 of 5 career starts, but can he go this far? Monarchos, of course, is the Derby winner. John Oxley, the owner. John Ward, who picked Fusaichi Pegasus, last year's Derby winner, out of the Keeneland sale, and his client paid $4 million for. And there's a look at Mr. John, who's galloping off. Percy Hope, the 8-horse, ridden by John Court, who's riding in his first Preakness, as Dollar Bill, the 10-horse, gallops off under Pat Day. Could be a milestone today for Pat Day. If he wins, it'll be his 6th Preakness victory. That would tie him with the great Eddie Arcaro for the most Preakness wins ever. And a look at Point Given, the favorite under Gary Stevens, as the horse is breaking out of the post parade and warming up. We'll check the odds here. Marciano, he's a son of 2 Punch, by the way, hence the name of the great heavyweight. Mr. John, Griffinite, A P Valentine at 9-1, Congaree at 3, Richly Blended 17-1, Monarchos at 2-1. Percy Hope's taken sort of a lesser route, but he could win $1 million bonus given by Lone Star, where he won their Derby. Bay Eagle, another local favorite. Dollar Bill and Point Given, as Monarchos at 2-1, co-favored with Point Given at the moment. Monarchos will break from the 7 post position right in the middle of the field of 11 when we return.
And we welcome you back to the Preakness. Much history has played itself out on the Pimlico track. More than 60 years ago, the legendary match race between War Admiral and Seabiscuit. A while back on this telecast, you heard Jim McKay allude to the great Preakness duel between Sunday Silence and Easy Goer in 1989. And while it hasn't quite risen to that level, it does appear that there's a rivalry developing now between the Kentucky Derby winner Monarchos and the Wood Memorial winner Congaree.
A modern-day racing rivalry, Congaree and Monarchos. It began in April. It continues today.
And they're off. Congaree's in front by 3.5 lengths. Monarchos is doing his best, but he's still second best. Congaree to win the Wood. And it is Congaree who is full out. Here comes Monarchos under a heavy drive on the far outside. And Monarchos has won the Kentucky Derby.
The duel has come to historic Pimlico, the Preakness, home to Derby winners and their dreams, the chase for the elusive Triple Crown. It can also be home to redemption. Can Point Given amend his Derby disappointment? Or will his running mate Congaree carry the Bafford banner? Monarchos doesn't see either, with the crown in his sights. As post time approaches for the Preakness, fans crowding toward the rail where they can get a good view of the race itself. Let's check the odds. Mr. John at 19-1, A P Valentine is 9, Congaree at 3-1. Some late money has narrowed the gap between Monarchos and Point Given. They're now virtually even at 2-1, Monarchos and 2-1, Point Given. Don't forget, coming up next here on NBC will be Game 1 of the Western Conference Series, the highly anticipated series between the Lakers and the Spurs, and then 2 Game 7s, NBA Eastern Conference games coming your way tomorrow, all here on NBC. Horses approaching the starting gate. Donna Brothers on horseback has been back there with them. Donna, any problems with any of the horses?
I have not seen any problems with any of the horses. Before the Derby, Gary Stevens said that they try to keep Point Given off by himself. They weren't able to do that in the Derby. It was a short post parade and a very large field. He has been off by himself in most of this post parade, and he seems to be a lot cooler coming out of it. Of course, it is a little cooler day today. Looks like he'll be able to run his better race today than last time.
All right, Donna, any other problems? And give us a reading on the track condition as you're on it firsthand there.
Well, the track is fast. They've done a remarkable job with it. I did talk to Jerry Bailey, and I asked him how he liked his Preakness mount. He said, no disrespect meant he liked him better than the Derby mount that he had, though. But the track is fast. It looks like it's in good shape, and looks to me like everybody's got the warm-up in that they needed, and no misbehavior. It is a large crowd, and of course a large crowd means a loud crowd, but they've all handled it very well, Bob.
I can't see it.
All right, Donna, and it looks now like Monarchos will be favored. Let's go to Mike Battaglia.
Thanks, Tom. And John Ward with his wife Donna, Jack and Debbie Oxley, and they all seem very confident. But when they're going in the gate for the Preakness, the nerves have to set in just a little bit, John.
Well, absolutely. You know, I'd be a fool if I wasn't nervous right now, and very hopeful. And you know, we're looking for good things, but we know how disappointing racing can be. But we're happy.
Good luck. Have a great race, Tom.
All right, and there is Monarchos. As we said, the late money has been pouring in on him, and he will be favored over Point Given as Marciano, the local hope under Mark Johnston, heads into the starting gate. This is a single load, unlike what we saw at Churchill Downs. The horses go in by post position order, one at a time. As you see Mr. John go in. Now the rider on the 3-horse Griffinite is Sean Bridgemahan, and he is off the horse. Charles, did you see what happened?
We did. Griffinite has had a history of difficulty at the gate. He delayed the start before the Lafayette Stakes in Keeneland, which he ultimately won, but they got him in there pretty smoothly, but it looks like they were taking no chances.
Jennifer Peterson said she'd schooled him repeatedly on going into the gate, and he went in, sans rider. It's Congaree that goes in now, and they continue to load, richly blended. Expected to show the early speed. A late update on the odds. Monarchos and Point Given virtually even now at 2-1 as Richly Blended goes in. There's the Derby winner, Monarchos. And now to call the 126th running of the Preakness, let's go to Tom Durkin. Tom, Richly Blended had first choice of post positions. He took the middle, post position 6.
It'll be interesting to see what Mr. John does from post position number 2. He's got some early speed. There's a pretty long run to that first turn here at Pimlico, so he may want to force the hand of Richly Blended, make him run a little bit faster than he wants to win the early going. And there's the hard luck horse of the spring campaign, Dollar Bill and Pat Day. They're moving into post position number 10 and post position number 11, breaking from the outside post as he did in the Derby. There is Point Given ready for the start of the Preakness, and they are off. And Congaree stumbled at the start. Congaree stumbled at the start and coming smoothly out from the starting gate. It's Richly Blended to take the early lead. Percy Hope has some speed. Congaree's getting back on track, but he's very eager today. He's coming up now to be second. For the inside, Mr. John now races in third. Percy Hope is rating in fourth. Marciano rides the rails fifth. Then it's A P Valentine, 6 lengths from the lead. He's 6. Dollar Bill is clear of trouble in the early going. He's on the outside, 3 off the rail, running in 7th. Griffinite is 8 toward the inside. Point Given is running along in 9th. Bay Eagle is 10th. And the Derby winner, Monarchos, is last of them all after a quarter that went in 23 4/5 seconds. Monarchos is 14 lengths from the lead. The field begins to run down the backstretch. It's front running, Richly Blended the lead by 2. Jerry Bailey trying to rate the speed of Congaree, second on the outside of Mr. John. The half went, did an honest 47 1/5 seconds. Marciano's 4th toward the inside. Percy Hope long shot alongside him. A P Valentine is asked to run, and he's moving through on the inside. He's only 3.5 lengths from the lead now. And Point Given set up on the outside. There he goes. Point Given, a big move as they move into the far turn. And from the back of the pack, Monarchos. Monarchos is launching his bit with 3.5 furlongs to go. He's drawn within 6 lengths of the lead. They've run 3 quarters and won 11 and 1. Congaree and Richly Blended on even turns as they approach the quarter pole. Point Given looms large on the outside. He's right there running in third. Then by the back is Percy Hope. A P Valentine toward the inside. Monarchos is struggling. 7 lengths from the lead. They're at the top of the stretch. And it's Point Given. Point Given who has taken the lead. He is fighting hard with stablemate Congaree. 1-2 at the 8th hole. A P Valentine in with an upset chance. Dollar Bill is coming late. 16th to go. Point Given in front by 2, and he's going to do it. Point Given redeems a disappointing Derby. He was perfect in the Preakness to win by 2 lengths over A P Valentine, then Congaree. Dollar Bill finishes 4th on the outside, followed by Griffinite, and it was a disappointing effort for Monarchos today. He was beaten a half a dozen lengths. The final time was 1:55 and 2. It was the Point Given we had expected to see in Louisville. Point Given unleashing the move into the final turn, passing horses
First putting away his stablemate Congaree and then holding off A P Valentine to win the Preakness Stakes. Point Given, despite the outside post, which has been deadly in route races at Pimlico this spring meeting, makes that tremendous move and wins the Preakness Stakes for Bob Bafford. So Bafford has taken 3 of the last 5 runnings of the Preakness as Point Given joins Real Quiet and Silver Charm. In fact, Real Quiet had also broken from post position 11 when he won the Preakness. Once again, there will be no Triple Crown winner as Monarchos finishes up the track here in the Preakness Stakes. He was last, far behind as they went by the stands for the first time. Chavez got him going on the backstretch but did not have enough. Let's go to Donna.
Gary, last week the beaten favorite in the Kentucky Derby. Today you come away as the Preakness winner. How do you feel?
Feel great. I feel like he vindicated himself a little bit today. Believe me, he didn't show up 2 weeks ago for whatever reason. I don't know. We got a very kind racetrack today. He loves it. It's pretty much the same track as when he won the Santa Anita Derby, and he gave me nothing but confidence throughout the races he had in all of his races except for the Kentucky Derby.
So when you look back now, is it easier to explain his loss in the Derby?
No, I still have no idea. Bob and I have discussed it. The only thing I can say, track was a bit hard that day. He's a big, strong horse and hits the ground pretty hard and probably didn't help him any. But I don't want to give him any excuses, take anything away from Monarchos' race in the Derby. It was a hell of a race, but he showed up today.
And Gary, what about you? Last year, this time you were retired. Today you get your second Preakness winner. How's that feel?
Well, it's a dream come true for me. Prince Ahmed of Saudi Arabia and all the people in Saudi Arabia. I can't say enough. I got a second chance after retirement and to ride the best horse that I've ever ridden. It's like I'm in a dream.
Gary, congratulations. Tom, Point Given redeems himself. I'm glad to see him back in good form again.
He did indeed redeem himself. He was the actual favorite in the race by about $4,000 over Monarchos. He joins Easy Goer, Prairie Bayou, Timber Country, and Captain Bodgett in the last 10 years as both favorites in the Derby and Preakness, but only the second to one, Prairie Bayou and Timber Country, the others. Prince Ahmed Salman, the Thoroughbred Corporation, watching the race in Saudi Arabia, and here was the powerful move as Point Given trying to get out a little bit. You see him running sideways there for a minute. Gary Stevens gets him straightened out. Congaree on his inside has been his biggest challenger, but he begins to fade a little bit. And then it's A P Valentine that comes up on the outside. But it is all Point Given here. Charlesy, what do you make of that sort of sideways running there in the stretch?
Well, Point Given has stayed on his left lead. He never gets over on his right lead through the stretch, and he sort of, there he goes. He jumps over right there, but he was on his left lead early. He kind of drifted in towards Congaree. Gary had no trouble straightening him right up. He's actually just sort of gawking around. Look at the ears never lie. Look at those ears. He did this very easily. A nice turnaround for A P Valentine coming up to be second there, and a good late run from Dollar Bill to get fourth. So he finally had a fairly trouble-free trip. But the story is all Point Given today.
Well, a handshake between Bafford and Stevens. You remember the little feature we had on the Point Given connections, and Bafford just sort of mildly blamed Stevens for the defeat in the Derby. Said maybe he was a little too close and didn't want to let Congaree get away. Well, today, Stevens did the job. He never lost confidence in his horse, and he rides him to victory in the Preakness. Let's go to Bob Newmeyer.
With third place finisher Congaree and jockey Jerry Bailey, an issue at the start of the race, did that kill you, the stumble at the start?
Probably didn't affect the total outcome of the race, but you never want anything to go wrong in these kind of races. But that happens, you know, though he broke so hard the ground broke from out from under him. He got up, laid about where I thought he would be. He got a little rank going into the first turn and then again the middle of the backside.
Now you settled in a second position behind Richly Blended, had a clear trip from there. Could you hear the big horse rumbling up outside you?
Not only could I hear him, I could see him, you know, and that too I thought would be coming at me. My horse never gave up. He hung in there as well as he could, but he just wasn't quite as good as that other horse today.
So no particular excuse?
Not really.
All right, Jerry Bailey on Congaree here in the Preakness. Mike?
All right, the Bafford horse is running 1-3. Let's go to Mike Battaglia.
Thanks, Tom. And with Jorge Chavez, and Jorge, this horse was so spectacular in the Derby. Today, he just couldn't duplicate it. Was it the pace?
Could be the pace. Was no pace, but, you know, it looks like more anything else. My horse don't handle that well the track. You know, I was follow the Point Given. You know, I was like a 2-3 lengths behind him, and I was trying to follow, but when I asked, my horse don't respond. He did try to go, but he was a little bit like fighting with the track, and this Point Given was keep going away, and I was trying to find him, and my horse definitely he didn't finish like he used to finish.
Did you ask him, did you want him to get into the race a little bit earlier than normal? Let's take a look over here at the replay. Here's the replay of the race, and it looks like you're really working on Monarchos at this point. Were you getting any response at all?
Yeah, I was trying to get as close as I can and, follow the Point Given, but my horse don't help me, and there's nothing else I can do. I guess the track don't was that well for him, and he was fighting a little bit with the track, but it's happening as part of the race, and I guess I got beat today, but we'll see what happens the next step.
All right, George, and here you are finishing up, and the horse just absolutely did not have any kick at all. Even at the end here, were you kind of surprised at that? Their horse is passing you at the end.
Yeah, just like I said, he don't like the track, and but he's a nice horse, and I'm not disappointed with him, but it just happens sometimes in the track. He tried hard he can. I'm happy with the horse, but nothing I can do but the track.
All right, better luck in the Belmont. Jorge Chavez, and gave their best, but there's not going to be a Triple Crown winner this year, Tom.
All right, Mike. Jorge Chavez saying perhaps he didn't like the track, as Monarchos well beaten in the Preakness today. John Ward has said he will go to the Belmont Stakes regardless of what happens today. Point Given, $665, $4. A P Valentine, that late run, got him second. Congaree, the show horse, the Exacta, paying $81.40, and the Trifecta, $279. And redemption for Gary Stevens, who had ridden Silver Charm to victory in '97 for Bob Bafford. And for Bafford, he'd taken a lot of flack when Point Given flopped in the Derby. And now he knows it's his. In fact, he sees he's going to finish 1 and 3. Sweet redemption at the Preakness for Bafford, Stevens, and Point Given. All right, Marv, and here we are back at Pimlico, where Point Given has won the Preakness. Whenever the Goodyear blimp is hovering above with its camera focused on an event, you know you're going to get a unique view. Overhead today, the blimp Spirit of Goodyear, based in Akron, Ohio, world headquarters for the Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company. Here's the complete order of finish as Point Given wins officially by 2 1/4 lengths over A P Valentine. Congaree third, Dollar Bill fourth. Go all the way down to place number 6. Monarchos finishing 6th. The Derby winner 6th and up the track in the Preakness today. And a Preakness tradition, the painting of the weather vane atop the cupola, a replica of the cupola aboard the old members grandstand or members clubhouse, which burned in 1976. Lawrence Jones, the painter, applying the colors, the green and white colors of the Thoroughbred Corporation, the owner of Point Given, Prince Ahmed Salman, a member of the royal family of Saudi Arabia, and Richard Mulhall, the racing manager of the Thoroughbred Corporation. That's the scene in the winner's circle. The MSNBC Cyber Cappers, 26% of them thought the Derby winner would repeat. Point Given drew 23%, so it was pretty close, just as it was in the betting. Gary Stevens winning his second Preakness. He was aboard Silver Charm for Bob Bafford in 1997. The garland of black-eyed Susans, they're actually Viking daisies, painted black in the center because the real black-eyed Susans, the state flower of Maryland, don't bloom until later in the year here. And Point Given, named by Prince Ahmed Salman when he heard someone mention the term Point Given and said, "Stop, that's what I'll name a horse." He was on hand at Churchill Downs for the disappointment, and now half a world away can celebrate a win in the second leg of the Visa Triple Crown. Stevens unsaddling. And while we wait for the official presentation in the winner's circle, Bafford, by the way, a moment ago was on his cell phone talking to the Prince in Saudi Arabia. But while we wait, let's take a look at the isolated replay of Point Given. Just as in the Derby, he breaks from the outside. Bob Bafford thought in the Derby it might be an advantage because stay out of trouble in the 17-horse field. He was going to take back, but today he said it might be a little closer with Point Given. He thought maybe Gary Stevens was too close in the Derby, not wanting them to get away from him against a fast pace. Well, the pace here is slower. He's passing Monarchos just there, but he's next to last as they head by the finish line the first time and into the clubhouse turn. Stevens still has Point Given on the outside and about the 4-path now as they come through that turn, and not yet asking him to run. He's got Dollar Bill, number 10 in the pink, just to his inside, the hard luck horse, who appeared to have a fairly clean trip today and wound up getting a piece of the purse. Now Point Given beginning to pick off horses one by one. The 3-horse Griffinite to his inside as he goes past. A P Valentine looms on the inside, and he will close in the stretch to get second place, but now Point Given is edging by him to the outside. Stevens has Percy Hope next in his sights, and there's A P Valentine. You see him also start to move as Victor Espinoza decided he better go too if Point Given was going to go, and he moved between horses. But now Point Given still set on the outside and picking him off, as we said, one by one without Gary Stevens really asking him for a whole lot yet. Richly blended, the early pace setter, number 6 on the rail, starting to fade, and Congaree puts his neck in front. His stablemate on the outside, Point Given, and it'll be the 2 Bafford horses that will battle head and head as they come to the top of the home stretch. Congaree's on the inside, Point Given's on the outside, and Point Given, with Stevens shaking him up, refuses to change leads there, turns a little sideways, but Stevens once again gets him straightened out, took a look over both shoulders to make sure he was clear, keeps him about his business with a little friendly tap, and now on the left side and a hand ride to the wire as Point Given is safely clear, giving the type of performance that has been expected of him after winning his 2 races before the Derby and coming home to give vindication in the Preakness. Preakness.com is the website to check for all the information on the 126th running of the Preakness Stakes. And Point Given getting a shower bath from the hose trackside on this hot and humid day. Has to feel pretty good after the run he put in. And looking around as usual, the playful colt who is massive, 200 or 300 pounds heavier than most colts, and a handful for his rivals today as he takes the Preakness under Gary Stevens. Point Given, the Thoroughbred Corporation's homebred Thunder Gulch colt, has won the 126th Preakness. And now for the official winner's circle presentation, let's go to Bob Costas.
Tom, the scene here is not for the claustrophobic. Trainer Bob Bafford, jockey Gary Stevens, Tim Smith, the commissioner of the NTRA, Carl Pasquarella, the president and CEO of Visa Corporation. The $5 million is safe for yet another year.
Absolutely, Bob. Point Given ran an excellent race today. We've had a great field for the Derby and for the Preakness, and we'll wait till next year.
Is the $5 million at least gaining interest?
We're trying. Bob, every time we talk about it, Bob wants to actually have it roll up to another $10 million and then 15. So we're negotiating with Bob.
Karen DeFrancis is the co-owner of the Maryland Jockey Club, and it is her honor to present Paris Glendenning, the governor of Maryland.
Yes, and on behalf of all of us at the Maryland Jockey Club, congratulations to the Thoroughbred Corporation, Bob Bafford and Gary Stevens. And at this time, it's my honor and pleasure to introduce the governor of the state of Maryland, the Honorable Paris N. Glendenning, for the presentation of the Woodlawn Vase, the most valuable trophy in American sports.
Thank you. Am I supposed to get the little detail here?
There you go.
Let me make this presentation on behalf of not only the Jockey Club, but the 5 million citizens of Maryland. Tell you how proud we are. Congratulations and a great race.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you. The vase being accepted by Richard Mulhall on behalf of Prince Ahmed and the Thoroughbred Corporation.
Yes. Thank you very much. Thank you to the Maryland Jockey Club and Bob Bafford and Gary Stevens and Point Given and Prince Ahmed for letting us have this horse.
We understand that the Prince was able to watch the race, and you were on the phone with him. It's the wee hours of Sunday morning in Saudi Arabia. I guess he won't be going to sleep anytime soon.
No, I think he's pretty happy. I haven't talked to him since he's won, but he did get to watch it on one of the feeds over there, and so that was good.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Charles C. Canty will be next. Charles C.
2 weeks ago, Bob Bafford said that he had the perfect Kentucky Derby horse in Point Given. Bob, you were 2 weeks late.
Well, first of all, I'd like to apologize for Prince Ahmed for losing the Kentucky Derby, but the Preakness is a good race, and they give a great silver hats. It's a great silver hats, these trophies, so it's been a long time since we won one of these, like 3 years, so. But we were a little bit disappointed, very disappointed in Point Given's performance in the Derby, and we had a theory on it, and our theory was right, but what are you going to do? You know, Congaree, I wanted to run 1-2. I really thought I was going to run 1-2, and Congaree ran his heart out also, but just couldn't get him to relax today.
You just missed that part, but you had a change of strategy here today. Gary Stevens will get you both to come over here and take a look at the replay here. You were a little further back. You were closer up in the Derby. Was this by intent?
Yeah, I just, Bob asked me what I wanted to do, and along with Mr. Mohol and Prince Ahmed, he was putting in his input, and he felt that we should get the horse back a little further. I rode him with a lot more confidence early on today. Just let him get settled into his stride and kept him on the outside out of trouble. Watched Ron Turcotte ride Secretariat here one year, and rode him kind of like this, just kept him out of everybody's way, and I felt like I was loaded for bear every step of the way, and just gave me a great feel. But everything worked out great, and Prince Ahmed's instructions worked to a T today.
Well, and here you come through the stretch. I think this bad boy gets to goofing around a little bit on you here.
Yeah, he does. I came into the stretch next to Congaree and still had him throttled down. Didn't want to go to the lead yet because he does tend to look around a little bit. And as I was going by Congaree, he was looking up in the grandstand, and I actually had some difficulty getting him to change into his right lead. Once he did, he went on about his business, but still didn't feel like he was giving me everything he had. It was a heck of a feeling.
Do you feel like you have any more clue now, either one of you, what happened at the Derby?
I really don't have any idea what happened at the Derby, whether it was the track being too hard or not. I don't want to make any excuses for him on the day. I wish I had it to do over. I would have taken him back further. I didn't do it. I don't know whether it would have made any difference at all. Might have ran the same way, and we'd still been scratching our heads, wondering if I should have had him up closer. But thing is, the real Point Given showed up today, and he put a great field away, did it easily, and all of America knows what a great racehorse he is now.
You said he was the best horse you ever rode. Bob, you've loved him all along. Are you still baffled, or you just care about being vindicated right now?
Well, I mean, at least we know that, you know, he is the horse we thought he was. You know, we never got any doubts, but we were all puzzled, you know, that, you know, he was in a spot, but maybe pace or whatever. Maybe that Churchill Downs is a weird strip, and sometimes horses, they don't get over it like it's comfortable, and he wasn't comfortable that day. Gary said he wasn't comfortable, so, you know, we looked him over. We couldn't find anything wrong with him, so we'll go to the next one. So Prince Ahmed said, yeah, please take him back. Listen to me. So, so that's what we did.
Prince Ahmed, you were quite right. Congratulations to you, to everybody at the Thoroughbred Corporation. Well done. And Tom, we'll go back up to you. That now we have Gary Stevens stopping Monarchos' bid for the Triple Crown. A few years ago, he stopped Bob Bafford's bid for the Triple Crown with real quiet.
All right, and Point Given finally changing leads before he got to the wire and winning it for the Thoroughbred Corporation. And don't forget, Monarchos and Point Given renew their rivalry in 3 weeks. Saturday, June 9th, we'll have the final leg of the Visa Triple Crown, the Belmont Stakes from Belmont Park in New York. And stay tuned, coming up, NBA, the Western Conference Finals, Game 1. The Lakers have been on a roll, undefeated so far in the playoffs. They take on the Twin Towers of the San Antonio Spurs. That's coming next. We'll be back with final comments in a moment. If you had the 11 on your ticket today at the Preakness, you're a winner. Point Given, breaking from the outside, takes the money in the $1 million Preakness for Bob Bafford and Gary Stevens and the Thoroughbred Corporation. He did his daddy one better. Point Given, a son of Thunder Gulch, who only managed third to his stablemate Timber Country at the Preakness back in 1995. Point Given, as always, goofing around as he came home. And maybe a guy that's just as playful as his horse, Bob Bafford, can celebrate redemption from the 5th place finish in the Kentucky Derby with a resounding victory from the outside post in the 126th running of the Preakness Stakes. Gary Stevens celebrates his second Preakness victory. Monarchos, the Derby winner, unable to get there as Bafford celebrates his horses, Point Given and Congaree, running 1-3 with A P Valentine finishing second, and that's the Preakness. Now let's go to San Antonio and join Marv Albert for NBA playoff basketball.